How's it going, everyone? This video is going to be over basic market structure. Now, understanding trend and basic market structure is very important before we get into advanced market structure. Let's hop into the PDF and get started. Now, before we get started, it's important to understand what swing highs and swing lows are and understanding liquidity. If you don't understand what that is, please click the top right or look in the description for a link to that video and watch that prior to this. Now, here we are in the PDF. And if price is going to move higher or trend upwards, we're going to have to make higher highs and higher lows. That is how price moves higher. So for example, here we have a low, we create a high, then relative to this low here, we have a higher low. Relative to this high here, we have a higher high. Relative to this low, we have a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And that is how price trends higher. Now, if we're going to trend lower, the same thing has to occur, but just opposite. So we have a high and a low. Relative to this high, we create a lower high, a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Now, when we get a change in trend, that is when we go from a bearish trend to a bullish trend, or we get our shift in structure. And that is when we create a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So at this point, we're still trending down. We create a lower low. We can't displace lower. Now we get displacement, creating what? A higher high. Now we get our low risk buy or our higher low, and then it confirms the uptrend is starting, and we get a higher high, higher low, and now we move into a bullish trend. So you can see here we have that market structure shift. And similarly, going from a bullish trend to a bearish trend, we have that higher high, our higher low, our higher high. Now we're making a lower low. This is where I'm thinking, okay, are we going to shift trend when we put in a lower high and then displace and close below this lower low, creating another lower low and then a lower high? We are shifting to bearish trend. So that is where our market structure shift or market structure break would be. Now, the important thing to understand here is you have to understand the higher time frame trend when you're looking at the lower time frames. So for example, here on the lower time frame, we have this higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. We make a higher high, and then we displace down, making a lower low. Now, you might be thinking, okay, we're shifting trend to bearish, and yes, that is a possibility, but we have to understand what the higher time frame is doing. A lot of times what happens is people will try to catch this first short here, and then price does this, right? Making a new higher high, and most people get stopped out right here. So why is that? Well, you have to understand the higher time frames. A lot of times, this aggressive move lower here is just a retracement on a higher time frame to move higher. So that's why it's important to go with the higher time frame trend. It's a lot easier to frame an idea right here to continue with the trend than it is to catch every top or every bottom. Let's hop into the charts and practice finding some highs and lows. Let's take a look at a bullish trend here and the structure that forms with it. So you can see we've been trending up. We get more displacement out of this range, creating a higher high relative to this high. You can see we have a higher high, even if we have not formed a swing high yet, but let's see what happens. So here we form that swing high. So here is a higher high. If we're going to continue the trend, what do we want to see? Well, we'd want to see a higher low relative to this low here. So let's see what happens. Okay, there we form a higher low. Now, if we're going to continue the trend up, I want to see closure over this high or making a higher high. So there we go. We're making a higher high. Let's see if a swing forms. And so now we have a higher high. So now if we're going to continue this trend up, what do we want to see? A higher low relative to this one. So now we have a swing low. If that's going to be our higher low, we'd want to see a higher high. Now we make a higher high. Let's see if we get a swing. We do. So now, if we're going to continue this trend up, I'd want to see a higher low. Now let's see if we form a swing here. We do. So now I'd want to see a higher high. And now we do. So you can see this is just basic trend. Higher highs and higher lows form an uptrend. Let's hop into an example of a bearish trend. You can see here we're getting aggressive displacement lower, so let's see what happens. So here we form a low. Now we want to see if we form a lower high. So we do form a lower high there. Now we're forming a lower low. We form a swing. Let's see if we form a lower high relative to this one. Looks like we may. If we form the swing, we do. Now we have a lower low. And we actually have a lower high here, but that's in a discount of this range. So now we want to see a lower high relative to this one. We've made a lower low. There we get a lower high. Now a lower low. See where it goes. Now we'd want to see a lower high. There we go. And then creating a lower low. So you can see as we're trending down, we're making lower highs and lower lows. We do, you can see, make highs and lows in here, and those get swept out before we go. But you can see relative to this high here, it is still a lower high. Now, not all examples are going to be this clean, so let's hop into some price action and just practice. So let's take a look at this price action here and show how using structure, you can see when trends change. You can see here, we are trending up on this higher time frame, so keeping that in mind. We make a high, low, lower high, lower low. So short term here, we are becoming bearish. You can see, and we'll go ahead and move that to there because that's actually our lower low now. Now, if we're going to form a lower high, we have a fair value gap here. Let's see what happens. We do. So if this trend is going to continue lower here, we're expecting a lower low. Now we don't get a lower low. We actually end up getting a higher low. Now what do we notice? We make a higher high as well, but is there any displacement here? No, it's really just kind of consolidation. We don't know where price is wanting to go. So letting it play out, what happens? Now we get some displacement, a close over this previous high, right? Another little higher low, but mostly focused on the close here, making a higher high. So now if we're going to continue and shift trend, I want to see a higher low and then a higher high, and ideally go reach for here. We make a higher high, just going to drag this up. Higher high, right? Now we've broken this high as well. We form a swing high. Now if we're going to form a swing low, we could form one right here. Ideally, I like to see discount, right? This is when I like to use discount and premium. But we do form a higher low right there, make a higher high. So now you can see we've taken this high here, made a higher high relative to that, and we're kind of just retracing here. So let's see what happens. So you can see no real direction here. We're just sweeping highs and lows. Now we make a higher high. Making a higher high. Now we're making possibly a lower high if we don't sweep. We do sweep, higher high. We don't really have any low in here that we broke. So this is still bullish to me, right? Because we never broke this low down here. Let's see what happens. Now we break this low. So you can see we don't really have a swing low in here. So once we break this low, now I'm thinking, okay, we can possibly shift to bearish. Now, if we're going to form a bearish trend, I want to see lower lows and lower highs. So I'd want to see a lower high put in to continue lower. So here we do have a high if we form a swing. So now we have a lower high. So if we're going to form a bearish trend here and actually shift from bullish to bearish, I want to see a close below or break of this low. So there we go. Now we make a lower low. And there is our lower low. Now if we're going to continue bearish, we want to see what? A lower high. So we do have a lower high here. I'm not as interested in this because of premium and discount, right? I'd like to see a premium array. That one does form the high though and makes a lower low. And we continue lower. So you can see it sometimes does get a little bit messy, but just focusing on swing highs and swing lows and the displacement around them, or the lack of displacement around them, can give you clues to where price is heading and where it is shifting. So just deleting this here, if we go back to where is our shift in structure, or where is our actual change in trend? Now I'm not really interested in this right here, right? We do form a higher high, but we don't have a swing we break. So looking at this low here, this is where we shift trend, right? Because this is the low that made the new high before price came and broke it, right? So then if we rewind, so right here, this is where I'm thinking we can shift trend. However, we are also in a discount over here. So if we're going to continue the trend higher, and this is just a sweep, we're not going to form a lower high here. We'll make a higher high. So I want to see, do we form a lower high here and then look to get in later, right? So right here, this is the deciding point. Do we reject from here, continue lower, shift the trend, or is this just a sweep to continue higher and continue this uptrend? Now, once we displace and close below this low, that is when I'm looking short, right, to old lows. You can see, but you can see this is the shift in structure. Now let's take a look at this example on oil. So you can see we're making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. So if we're going to form a higher low here, I'd want to see the trend continue higher. If we're going to break a low, then I'd want to see if we put in a lower high and continue lower. So let's see what happens. So here we displace and close below this low. So do we shift structure? Well, if we do, I'd want to see a lower high be put in. And here we put in a lower high. So if we're going to go lower, I'd want to see closure below this low. And now we just continue higher and end up taking this first high. So now why did that happen? Well, here we are on the 5-minute chart. Let's go ahead and zoom out to the hourly chart. Now this is what I talked about at the end of the PDF, where a lower time frame reversal, or this lower time frame shift in structure, is actually just a retracement to a higher time frame PD array, in this case an hourly fair value gap, to continue higher. So marking out that hourly fair value gap, going back to the 5-minute chart, you can see when we shift structure right here, this retracement is going to fail because it's going against the higher time frame. And so that's why it's a lot easier to go with the higher time frame and look to trade this out towards this high. Now, if you want to learn more about this, the best way to learn is to hop into your own charts and practice. That's the only way you'll truly understand it. Now, this is the foundation. In the next video, I will talk about advanced market structure. So I hope to see you guys there. Have a good one.